What happens when a cruel rich man shames an old porter and throws his dignity into the sea? Don Mateo thought he owned the world, but he didn't see the silent stranger in the blue polo watching. You won't believe how this quiet meeting turned the tide of justice forever. The sun at Pier 15 was a cruel fire today. Don Mateo stood like a king among the common people. He had 12 suitcases with shiny gold buckles. "You there, old man?" he barked at Mang Ray. Mang Ray was a 60-year-old man with a tired back. "Move these to my yacht in 10 minutes or no pay." The old porter wiped his sweat with a red rag. He carried 4 heavy suitcases on his thin shoulder. The thick crowd smelled of salt and heavy diesel. Mang Ray's knees shook under the weight of the pride. Suddenly his worn-out slipper tripped on a metal plate. He fell hard, and one bag hit the concrete edge. A scratch appeared on the fine Italian leather bag. Don Mateo's face turned red with a sudden anger. "You stupid, worthless animal!" he screamed for all to hear. He slapped Mang Ray across the face with the bag. Through the busy terminal, the sound of the hit echoed. "This bag costs more than your miserable life, man." He snatched the old hat from Mang Ray's head. The dark, oily water swallowed his old hat. "Now go and swim for your dignity, you beggar." Mang Ray stood trembling with a red mark on him. Instead of 500 pesos, Mateo threw a small coin. A 5-peso coin rolled into the black mud nearby. "That is all your labor is worth today," Mateo sneered. "The truth is about to be revealed in this port. If you believe that God defends the humble, please like and subscribe. Support our channel to hear more stories of his silent justice." A tall man in a faded blue polo stood nearby. He held wood, watching everything very silently. His skin was dark from the sun, his eyes deep. He did not shout, but the air around him changed. He placed a hand on Mang Ray's tired shoulder. A strange, healing warmth spread through Ray's tired bones. "The truth is never hidden in the mud," he said. His voice was calm like the sea after a storm. Mateo laughed at the stranger's very simple clothes. "And who are you? Another beggar defending a loser?" The stranger did not answer the rich man with anger. He just looked at the scratch on the leather bag. Under his gaze, the scratch seemed to glow softly. Mateo felt a chill despite the heavy Philippine heat. His voice caught in his throat like a dry bone. The atmosphere of the busy pier changed in an instant. The noise of the port faded into a quiet whisper. Mang Ray looked up and saw hope in his eyes. The stranger smiled a smile that held much peace. The businessman stepped back, feeling very small and alone. Why do we often value objects more than a human soul? Mang Ray looked at the 5-peso coin in the dark mud. His heart felt like a stone sinking in the Pasig River. He was not always a poor porter at Pier 15. 15 years ago, he was a proud foreman in big construction. He built the towers that now shade the rich men. Then, a heavy beam fell and crushed his right leg. Now, he walks with a limp and carries heavy bags. His hands are thick with yellow calluses and old scars. Every peso he earns goes to his wife, Aling Rosa. She lies in their small shack in Tondo, gasping for air. The medicine for her lungs costs more than his daily food. Before the sun rises, Ray is always at Quiapo Church. He kneels on the cold floor and talks to the Lord. "Give me strength for one more bag, Lord," he whispers. He never steals, and he never asks for more than fair. But today, Don Mateo did not just take his money. He took the old hat that Ray's father gave to him. The hat was his only shield against the burning Manila sun. Now it floated away, lost in the trash of the harbor. The crowd began to move, forgetting the old man's pain. But the stranger in the blue polo did not move away. He reached into the mud and picked up the small coin. He cleaned the 5-peso coin with his own clean sleeve. "This coin carries the weight of your honest sweat," he said. The stranger's eyes were like deep wells of ancient light. He handed the coin back, and it felt heavy like gold. Don Mateo watched from his yacht, pouring a cold drink. He laughed at the sight of 2 beggars talking in the dirt. "Hey, dirty old man, don't forget to wash your face." The rich man's voice was sharp like a broken glass bottle. Mang Ray felt a tear run down his wrinkled, dusty cheek. The stranger smiled and touched the air near Ray's heart. "Wait for the wind, Ray. It brings the Father's justice." Suddenly, the bright blue sky turned a bruised, heavy purple. A sudden wind from the sea chilled the hot pier instantly. The palm trees began to bend under a coming force. The ocean waves started to hit the concrete with fury. Port workers began to run for cover from the dark clouds. Don Mateo's yacht rocked violently against the heavy dock. The expensive leather bags began to slide toward the edge. Rain started to fall in huge, cold drops like silver nails. In the middle of the chaos, the stranger stood perfectly still. His blue polo did not move, even in the howling wind. Mang Rei felt a strange courage rising in his tired chest. He realized that the man beside him was no ordinary traveler. His presence felt like a shield against the coming storm. Mateo was screaming at his servants to save his luggage, but the suitcases were heavy with the weight of his greed. One by one, they slipped into the churning dark water. The sea was taking back what pride had tried to build. Mang Rei watched as his 5-peso coin began to glow. It was the only light in the growing darkness of the port. The stranger turned to the old porter and gripped his arm. "Do not fear the storm that cleans the dirty earth." His voice was louder than the thunder rolling over Manila. The storm was not just rain, it was a heavy reckoning. Every injustice was being washed away by the falling water. Don Mateo was slipping on his own polished, expensive deck. He reached for a railing, but his hands found only air. The world he bought with lies was falling into the sea. The storm is rising, and the secrets of the heart will soon be exposed. If you believe that God sees the tears of the poor, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for the conclusion of this miracle. Mang Rei ran to help, but the stranger held him back. "His path is his own, but your path is already paved." The wind carried the smell of fresh earth and old wood. The old man looked at his hands, and the pain was gone. The limp in his leg vanished as he stood perfectly straight. He felt like the foreman he was 20 years ago. The rain washed the dust and the shame from his weary face. He looked for the stranger, but only the blue polo remained. The man was walking toward the waves, stepping on water. He did not sink. He walked as if the sea was solid stone. Mang Rei fell to his knees, not from weight, but from awe. The 5-peso coin in his hand was now warm and vibrating. He understood that he was never alone at the busy pier. The creator of the stars was carrying his bags all along. The storm reached its peak, hiding the sun from the city. In the darkness, a quiet light began to shine from the shack. The medicine was gone, but a greater physician had arrived. Would you stay and help a man who treated you like dirt? The storm lashed at the small shacks along the muddy coast of Tondo. Mang Rei struggled to push his door against the howling, wet wind. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of damp wood and sickness. Aling Rosa lay on the wet bamboo floor, her breath a jagged whistle. The 2,000 pesos he saved for years was now gray pulp. The floodwater had reached the shelf where he kept the precious bills. "I am sorry, Rosa," he sobbed, kneeling in the rising cold water. He held her thin, cold hand, feeling her life slipping away slowly. The medicine bottles were empty, knocked over by the wind's cruel hand. Outside, the city of Manila was drowning in a sea of shadows. But the trial for Mang Rei was only just beginning that night. Don Mateo had used his gold to poison the ears of many. He told the pier authorities that Rei was a thief and reckless. "That old man broke my soul's property," Mateo had lied loudly. The port manager, a man of greed, listened to the rich gold. Mang Rei was banned from the terminal for 7 long, dark days. Without the pier, there was no rice, no light, no hope. He knocked on the doors of neighbors he had once helped. "Please, just a little soup for Rosa," he begged through rain. But the doors remained locked. The lights inside turned off quickly. Fear of Don Mateo's power was stronger than the call of mercy. The world seemed to shrink into a small, cold, watery grave. Every cough from Rosa felt like a hammer hitting Rei's heart. He looked at the crucifix on the wall, now tilted and wet. "Are you watching, Lord? Or have you also closed your door?" The silence of the heavens was louder than the thunder above. His stomach twisted with a hunger that felt like a sharp knife. He had nothing left but the 5-peso coin from the mud. The darkness is heavy, and the last candle is about to flicker out. If you believe that God provides even when all doors are locked, please like and subscribe. Join us as we witness the turning of the tide. The 8th night came with a cold that bit into the bone. Rei sat on the breakwater, watching the black waves hit stone. The 5-peso coin was cold in his palm, feeling very light. He thought of the businessman's yacht, safe and dry in luxury. The injustice burned in his throat like a drink of cheap gin. He had worked honestly for 50 years, yet he had nothing. No doctor would come to Tondo in this weather for no pay. He closed his eyes and let the rain wash his bitter tears. "Take us, Amma," he whispered to the great, dark, empty sky. "If this is the end of my service, let it be quick." He felt a strange, heavy tiredness settle over his old soul. The anger was gone, replaced by a hollow, quiet, deep peace. He was ready to let go of the rope of this hard life. Suddenly, the rain stopped hitting his back, though it still poured. A shadow blocked the wind, and a warmth touched his side. He did not look up, thinking it was just a final dream. The smell of fresh, warm bread filled the salty, wet air. It was a scent from his childhood, from his mother's small kitchen. The stranger in the blue polo was sitting there once again. He was dry, as if the storm did not dare touch him. He held a brown paper bag that radiated a soft, golden heat. "Eat, Ray," the man said, breaking a piece of soft pandesal. The bread was more than food. It was life flowing back in. Ray took a bite, and the strength returned to his tired arms. The stranger looked at the sea and spoke of ancient things. He spoke of a house in Bulacan with a red roof. "The land of your father is not lost, only hidden," he said. Ray gasped, for he had not told anyone of that lost dream. How did this traveler know the secrets of a poor porter's heart? The storm was still screaming, but around the stranger there was a deep, holy silence. Mang Ray looked at the man's hands as he handed over more warm bread. The skin was rough, like a carpenter who had worked for many, many years. "How do you know about Bulacan, sir?" Ray asked with a trembling, weak voice. The stranger, whom people called Ismael, smiled with eyes that saw everything clearly. "I was there when the first seed was planted in that black soil." Ray felt a strange heat in his chest, making his old heart beat fast. Ismael spoke of a hidden envelope inside an old, dusty wooden chest at home. "The paper you thought was lost is waiting for the light of day." The old porter breathed in the scent of the sea and the holy bread. Every word from Ismael felt like a heavy chain breaking off Ray's tired soul. He realized that his suffering was not a hole, but a long bridge. The hunger that bit his stomach for days suddenly vanished like a bad dream. He felt a peace that no amount of gold could ever buy from men. "Your wife, Rosa, is not breathing the air of this world alone now." Ismael touched the wet ground, and the mud seemed to turn into dry sand. Ray wanted to ask more, but his tongue was tied by a joyful fear. He looked at Ismael's feet and saw they were bare on the cold stone. Yet the stranger did not shiver, and the rain avoided his simple blue polo. It was as if the nature of the Philippines obeyed his silent, calm presence. The heavy darkness of Tondo was no longer scary to the old, lonely man. He felt like a child being carried by a strong, loving father through deep water. Ismael stood up and looked toward the distant lights of the dark, sleeping city. "The morning is coming, Ray, and it brings a crown for your long patience. The darkest hour is over, and a miracle is stirring in the heart of Manila. If you believe that God answers the cries of the broken, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us share these seeds of hope with the world." Ray reached out to touch the man's sleeve, wanting him to stay much longer. The fabric felt like light, not like the cheap cloth of a common traveler. "Who are you really?" Ray whispered, his eyes wide with a new, bright wonder. Ismael did not give a name, but he pointed to the glowing 5-peso coin. "I am the one who counts every tear you dropped in the dirty pier." The stranger began to walk toward the edge of the dark, crashing ocean waves. He did not stop at the shore, but continued walking onto the liquid salt. His footsteps left glowing circles on the water that the storm could not wash. Ray watched in silence, his breath catching in his throat like a small bird. The man in the blue polo merged with the gray mist of the early dawn. Suddenly, the heavy rain turned into a soft, golden mist over the whole port. The wind died down, leaving only the sound of a calm, rhythmic sea tide. Ray stood up and realized his legs were strong, moving without any sharp pain. He ran back to his small shack, his heart racing with a sudden, wild hope. He burst through the door and saw Rosa sitting up on the bamboo bed. Her face was no longer gray, and her eyes were bright like the morning star. "Ray, a man came," she said, her voice clear and strong like a bell. "He brought a medicine that smelled like lilies and fresh mountain spring water." Ray looked at the table and saw the old, forgotten envelope from Bulacan there. It was dry, clean, and glowing with a soft, persistent light in the room. The dawn was breaking over Manila, painting the sky in gold and deep purple. The trial of 7 days was over, and a new life was beginning now. How would you feel if God visited your home in the middle of a storm? The morning light in Tondo felt like a gentle touch from heaven. Mang Ray opened the old envelope with hands that no longer shook. Inside was the original land title for their family farm in Bulacan. He thought it was lost during the Great Flood 20 years ago. A formal letter was attached from a big government office in Manila. It said a new highway would pass through their old family land. The government was offering 5 million pesos for the small rocky lot. Mang Ray fell to his knees on the clean, dry bamboo floor. "Rosa, look! The Lord has remembered our names in the dark." Just then, a black car stopped in front of their small shack. A man in a sharp suit stepped out, holding a leather briefcase. "Are you Mr. Ronaldo? I am a lawyer for an anonymous donor." He said all of Aling Rosa's hospital bills were already paid in full. A private ambulance was coming to take her to a better room. Ray asked for the name of the kind person who helped them. "He only said he is a carpenter who knows your hard work." The old porter remembered the blue polo and the warm, holy bread. He felt a surge of joy that was stronger than any rich wine. The 5-peso coin in his pocket was now bright like a diamond. He knew that the stranger Ismael was the king of all kings. At the pier, the news of the miracle spread like a wildfire. The guards who blocked him now stood aside with their heads low. The port manager called Ray and said the suspension was a mistake. New CCTV footage showed that Don Mateo was the one who lied. It clearly showed the rich man hitting the old, humble, tired porter. The truth had come out of the shadows and into the bright sun. Ray walked through the terminal with a dignity that was very quiet. He did not shout or brag about his new, great, sudden wealth. He simply went to his old spot and waited for the next person. The scales of justice are finally balancing in the heart of the port. If you believe that no good deed goes unnoticed by God, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your faith is the light that guides these stories to those who need them. But the most surprising thing happened near the edge of the water. A group of porters gathered around a man who was crying loudly. It was the same captain who had laughed at Ray during the storm. He had lost his job and his house in the wind and waves. Ray did not look away or feel happy about the man's deep pain. He reached into his pocket and took out a 100-peso bill. "Buy some food for your children, friend," Ray said very softly. The captain looked at Ray as if he were seeing a bright angel. "How can you help me after what I did to you, Ray?" "Because a greater man helped me when I was just a beggar." Ray felt the presence of Ismael standing right there beside him again. The air smelled of lilies, even in the middle of the dirty port. The heavy burden of hate had been lifted from his weary soul. He was no longer a slave to the anger of the past years. The 5-peso coin was a seed that had grown into a forest. Every person at Pier 15 felt the change in the salty air. The old porter was now the richest man in the whole of Tondo, not because of the millions, but because of the peace in him. He looked at the sea and saw the reflection of a blue polo. The master was still watching, and the work was not yet done. Can you forgive someone who tried to destroy your only hope? 1 month had passed since the great storm shook the foundation of Pier 15. The air was clear, but the lives of 2 men had moved in opposite directions. Don Mateo stood on the hot concrete, but he was no longer a king. His expensive silk shirt was stained with sweat and the dust of the road. Government agents in dark barongs stood around his large, white, shining yacht. "All your accounts are frozen, Don Mateo," the lead official said very firmly. "Smuggling, tax evasion, and human rights violations have finally come to the light. The rich man who once spat on the poor was now a common criminal. His lawyers had vanished like smoke when the gold stopped flowing from his hand." The crowd at the pier watched as the bank towed his pride away. People who once bowed to him now whispered and pointed with their fingers. "Look at the tiger without teeth," a young vendor laughed from the side. Mateo felt the cold sting of shame burning his red, angry, tired face. He had no house to go to and no friends to call for help. The world he built on the backs of the poor had finally collapsed. He sat on a wooden crate, the same kind Mang Ray used before. His hands, once soft and clean, were now shaking with a deep terror. The suitcases were gone, the yacht was gone, and his name was cursed. He looked at the dirty water and remembered the old man's hat. He realized that justice is not a lightning bolt, but a rising tide. Every lie he told was a stone that eventually sank his own ship. The silence of the port felt like a heavy prison cell around him. He was a beggar in a designer suit, lost in his own dark city. The wheel of life has turned, and the mighty have fallen to the dust. If you believe that God humbles the proud and lifts the lowly, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us tell the world that the truth always wins. Suddenly, a pair of clean, simple leather shoes stopped right in front of him. Matteo did not want to look up, fearing more laughter from the hungry crowd, but he saw a hand extended toward him, a hand with thick, honest calluses. It was Mang Ray, wearing a clean barong and a new, humble straw hat. Ray did not have guards or a loud voice to show his new wealth. He looked at Matteo with eyes that held no bitterness or sharp poison. "The sun is very hot today, Don Matteo," Ray said with a calm voice. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a crisp 1,000 peso bill. This was more than the 500 pesos he was denied on that day. "Take this. It will buy you a meal and a bed for the night." Matteo looked at the money and then at the man he had once slapped. "Why, Ray? I tried to destroy you and your sick wife," Matteo whispered, "because a man in a blue polo told me that mercy is the only true gold." Ray placed the money in Matteo's trembling, weak and empty hand. "The yaman is fleeting, but the dangle of a soul remains forever, sir." The rich man began to sob, his tears falling onto the expensive concrete. He felt the weight of his sins more than the weight of his sudden poverty. The crowd went silent, seeing the greatest miracle of all at the pier. It was not the money, but the power of a victim to offer grace. Mang Ray turned away and walked toward the jeepney waiting for him. He felt a light breeze, and for a second, he saw a blue shadow. Ismail was standing by a lamppost, nodding with a soft, holy smile. The lesson was finished, and the heart of the port was finally healed. Would you be able to give your last peso to your greatest enemy? The hot sun of Manila began to set behind the dark blue sea clouds. Mang Ray stood at the edge of the pier, watching the evening light. He was no longer the broken man with the heavy, dusty bags today. He had established a small place called Ismail's Shelter near the busy port. It was a simple, clean wooden building for all the old, tired porters. Every morning, Ray provided hot coffee and fresh pandesal for the workers there. He did not forget the hunger that once bit his own empty stomach. He used the money from the Bulacan land to buy new medicine too. Aling Rosa was now walking slowly in their new, small, bright garden. Her laughter was the sweetest music Ray had ever heard in his life. He still wore his simple clothes, even though he was now very wealthy. "The heart does not need silk to be close to God," he said. He often sat on the same breakwater where he once cried in rain. He looked for the man in the blue polo among the many travelers, but Ismail was not seen by the eyes of the common, busy world. Yet Ray felt his presence in every act of kindness at the pier. He saw the stranger's smile in the face of a healed, happy child. He felt the stranger's warmth in the rays of the setting Philippine sun. The 5-peso coin was now kept in a small, velvet red box. It was a reminder that God stays in the mud with the humble. The port manager now treated every porter with a new, quiet respect. The lesson of the great storm had changed the soul of the harbor. Don Matteo was gone, but the spirit of mercy remained in the air. The pier was no longer just a place of hard, painful, dirty labor. The seeds of faith have grown into a garden of hope for everyone. If this story reminded you that God's grace is bigger than any tragedy, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and write "Grace" in the comments if you believe. Ray noticed a young boy struggling with a very large, heavy wooden box. The boy's face was red, and his small arms were shaking with fatigue. Ray did not call a servant or point with a rich, lazy finger. He walked over and placed his strong, calloused hand on the wooden box. "Let me help you, son. The load is lighter when shared with love." As they carried the box, Ray felt a sudden, familiar, holy warmth beside him. He looked to his right and saw a shadow of a blue polo. The weight of the box disappeared, as if it were made of light. The boy looked at Ray with wide, wondering and very happy brown eyes. "Thank you, Lolo Ray. You are as strong as a young giant today." Ray smiled and looked at the sky, whispering a prayer of deep thanks. He knew that the master was still walking the streets of the city. He was in the hospitals, the markets, and the dark, lonely Tondo alleys. He was the carpenter who was building a kingdom of peace in hearts. The shadows grew long, But Ray was not afraid of the coming night. The light of the 5 peso miracle would shine forever in the dark port. He had lost a hat, but found the king of the whole universe. The water of the sea was calm, reflecting the stars like silver jewels. Every breath Ray took was a song of praise to the silent helper. His journey was not over, but he knew the way home very well. Are you ready to be the hands of God for someone in need? The evening at Pier 15 was painted in shades of soft gold and orange. Mang Ray sat on a bench, holding his old toolbox with much care. Inside the box, the wood was smooth from many years of hard labor. He noticed a small carved cross that he had never seen before. It was located exactly where Ismail had touched the wood during the storm. The cross glowed with a faint, warm light that felt like a hug. Mang Ray closed his eyes and breathed in the scent of the sea. He remembered the holes in the palms of the man in the blue polo. He understood that the king did not come with a golden crown today. He came as a worker, a carpenter, a friend to the very lonely. The greatest miracle is not the money, but the love, Ray whispered. His foundation, Ismail's shelter, was now full of happy, resting men. They no longer feared the cruelty of the rich or the hunger of night. The old porter's life had become a living bridge for many others. He looked at the spot where Don Mateo once stood with his bags. There was no anger left in Ray's heart, only a deep, quiet pity. He prayed that the fallen man would also find the path of light. The 5 peso coin in his pocket was a seed that changed everything. It was a reminder that God is always walking among the humble people. The pier was now a place where every person was treated with dignity. The shadows of the past were gone, replaced by a bright, new hope. Mang Ray stood up, his body feeling strong and full of youthful energy. He walked toward his home, where Aling Rosa was waiting with a smile. The stars above Manila began to shine like diamonds in the dark sky. He knew that he would never walk alone in this world ever again. The carpenter of Nazareth was still there, watching over every single soul. The story of the porter and the rich man became a legend of the port. It reminded everyone that the last shall truly be the first in heaven. Mang Ray reached his door and looked back at the distant, quiet sea. "Thank you, Ismael," he said, and the wind whispered a soft reply. Peace settled over the city, a peace that the world cannot ever give. If this story reminded you that God sees everything and acts at the right time, support it with a like, subscribe to the channel, and write the word faith in the comments if you also believe in divine justice. The light of the miracle continues to shine in the hearts of the poor. Every act of kindness is a prayer that reaches the throne of God. May you find your own Ismael in the middle of your hardest storm today. The journey of faith never ends. It only grows deeper with every step. Walking with the Lord is the greatest treasure a man can ever find.